All right, good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Haley Bradway, and I am the COO here at WBX Commerce. I'm thrilled to have all of you here to focus on a critical topic for anyone navigating the world of e-commerce, specifically when it comes to Amazon. Today, we're going to talk about your agency strategy. What do you need from an Amazon agency, and what type of agency is the right fit? By the end of this webinar, you'll not only rethink your agency strategy, but leave with insights to help you identify what type of agency is the right fit for your brand. But before we dive in, I want to introduce our speaker for today's topic. WBX's SVP of Strategy, Drew Kramer. Drew is no stranger to Amazon advertising. With over 15 years of experience across leading advertising companies and agencies, he is dedicated to staying ahead of the curve when it comes to the evolving landscape of Amazon advertising. His strategic guidance has not only driven growth for numerous brands, but has impacted the roadmap for new technologies leveraging AMC data to continue to help our brands grow. So with that, I will hand it over to Drew.
Thanks, Haley. First, I wanted to start off talking about a very specific scenario where we were working with a brand who was evaluating their current agency and wanted us to perform an audit on that agency's strategy. Once we got into the brand's data, we were able to identify that from a campaign structure perspective, an investment in the specific Amazon products that the agency was focusing on, as well as a number of other factors, weren't necessarily in line with the strategy that WBX Commerce would have put in place. Once we determined that there was a partnership opportunity between the two companies, we implemented a new strategy for that brand. And within the first 90 days, we saw a 40% reduction in inefficient spend from an advertising perspective, as well as a 35% increase in top-line sales. Today, we'll cover the following topics. One size does not fit all. Why a tailored solution matters to you. What do the fancy badges within the Amazon partner portal actually mean? And how to tell if your strategy is stalled and leaving sales on the table. First off, size of an agency isn't necessarily indicative of that agency being the best fit for you. Sometimes with a really large agency, you're likely to get a standardized treatment. It isn't going to be tailored to your custom needs, and you might end up getting lost in the mix. There also is the times where you're going to see what feels like a lack of a true partnership. You're just another number for an agency that already has an existing large book of business, and it may be better to work with an agency that's more boutique, aligned with your strategic needs. Focus. About 2 years ago, maybe 3, there was a big shift from an agency perspective where a lot of agencies started being Amazon only and then kind of expanded into other retail media networks, whether that was Walmart, Target, Instacart, Kroger, eBay, so on and so forth. And these agencies' value prop is ultimately that they're omnichannel. But you have to ask yourself, is omnichannel really the strategy that works well for you? Oftentimes in these scenarios, the agency can be a jack of all trades, master of none. And with Amazon, our feeling at WBX is that we want to be an inch wide and a mile deep when it comes to our knowledge, specifically around Amazon. It's the largest retail media network in the world. There's a huge opportunity for brands who are already selling a lot on Amazon to sell more with the number of the strategies that we put in place. And we want to make sure that we're not spreading ourselves thin, just trying to say that we operate on a bunch of retail media networks that ultimately aren't going to drive much of an impact to your top line sales. In addition, making sure that your agency has focus and experience in specific categories is really important. Here at WBX, we have experience in categories ranging from grocery all the way to carpeting. But if your agency is very hyper-focused on one specific vertical, or they don't have experience in the vertical that you're specifically selling in, they might not be the best partner for you. Pricing. It's the question that every brand wants to know. How much am I going to get charged for my services? Some agencies price on a retainer, some price on total sales, some price on percentages of ad spend. Some are a combination of those. The most important thing is to put in place a pricing strategy that aligns with your goals. You want to make sure at the end of the day, when you're paying an agency, that you feel like you're getting value for that. And that agency isn't just collecting their check and you're locked into a year contract without getting the value that was promised at the time you signed your contract. So it's really important that that agency is flexible, understands what pricing models will align with your own goals and values, and then ultimately put that in place for you. Next up, I'll talk about the Amazon badging that occurs on the Amazon Partner Network. If you're not familiar with the Partner Network, it's an area within Amazon's website where you can view different traits of agencies who are partners that Amazon have verified as either an agency partner or a tool provider, so that you can do research on who to work with. Oftentimes, there are badges that are associated with different agencies, as well as different certifications. And these are really a standardized way that Amazon works with different brands and agencies and tool providers in order to signify what experience you have in specific areas. That could be a certification running the Amazon DSP or being a clean room analytics provider. Whatever your specific strategy is, you want to ensure that the partner that you're working with has been verified by Amazon and also has some of these certifications and badges that indicate their expertise in specific areas. There are over 1,900 Amazon agencies. And really, there's two key statuses that Amazon provides to those agencies that matter: a verified partner and an advanced partner. Here at WBX, we're an advanced partner. That helps demonstrate the product expertise that we have, engagement with the Amazon advertising team for things like getting into betas that other partners may not have access to, and the growth that we've seen for the advertising partners that we work with. Only about 8% of partners have advanced partner status, with the remainder falling into either verified or not verified. Without a badge, this may indicate that that agency has a limited knowledge set, whether that's within the Amazon DSP, Marketing Cloud, sponsored ads, any number of different areas. And this could also indicate that they have a lack of diversity in the accounts that they manage, total ad spend that they have experience with, as well as their internal teams getting certifications on specific ad products in order to stay up with the latest and greatest that Amazon is releasing all the time. Is your advertising strategy stalled? Oftentimes we hear from partners that the agency that they're working with, they just don't feel like they're up to date on Amazon. The implementation of the strategy that they put in place years ago hasn't changed very much, and they really feel stagnant for that reason. And a lot of times they think that, it's an old-fashioned ad strategy. What worked in 2017 certainly doesn't work in 2023. When it comes to sponsored ads, it's really Amazon's bread and butter from an advertising perspective. It's the thing that Amazon really banked on for a number of years. It provides incredible value to brands because it's very low down in the funnel. But as the competition within the Amazon marketplace is, only increased over time, Amazon has rolled out other products, whether that's Amazon Live, Amazon DSP, and within the DSP, things like streaming TV, to provide a more full funnel strategy for brands to implement in order to drive everything from brand awareness down to that purchase ultimately from a detail page. So if the agency that you're working with is only focused on sponsored ads, they may be missing out on a large investment area for Amazon, as well as, tools that can help you hit your specific goals. The next thing is lack of data transparency. A lot of times we see partners who maybe only get a spreadsheet here or there of data or a deck put together, but the agency that they're working with doesn't really provide insight into where the data is coming from, how often they're getting it, and why it's important. So making sure that you're working with an agency that provides a data-first approach and is transparent with the data that they are ultimately using to hit your goals and implement a strategy is super important. And lastly, make sure you're working with an agency that is prepared for the deprecation of third-party cookies. So it's been a big topic within the news over the past few years that Google, within the second half of the year, will really start to sunset cookies, which ultimately will have impacts on your ability to target the right customers as well as measure the impacts of the ads that you're showing to a given potential customer. Without leveraging or being invested or understanding the impacts of something like first-party data that can can have counter effects to the deprecation of those cookies, you might be working with a partner who isn't as savvy as one that you need. Here at WBX, we've developed a product called WBX Glass, which enables us to upload first-party data to marry up with Amazon retail media data and understand the impacts of things like targeting or conversions, really a number of different ways, as well as create audiences for users. In one specific scenario, we were able to take a brand's first-party data, upload it into the Amazon Marketing Cloud to get an idea of how that brand's streaming TV campaigns ultimately impacted their off-Amazon sales. So they wanted to see if a user was seeing a streaming TV campaign on one of Amazon's properties or one of the third-party properties that Amazon's streaming TV can connect to, what was the impact on the sales that were driven on that brands.com website. They had a goal of seeing about a 10% overlap in users who saw the streaming TV coming through the Amazon DSP that ultimately purchased on a brand's website. And we were able to understand that after a user saw an ad from the Amazon DSP, that there was about a 15% overlap in off-Amazon purchases. We were then able to increase the budgets to the streaming TV campaigns that seemed to have the biggest impact in the off-Amazon brand.com sales. And then once we did that, we saw an additional 14% increase in overall sales. So again, being able to work with an agency who isn't only familiar with Amazon retail media data and is really prepared for that deprecation of third-party cookies is super important. And with that, I'll turn it over to Haley for any questions that we got.
All right, so I see a few of you have found your way to the Q&A. That is the place to enter any questions that you do have, and I'll jump in there and read them. For anyone interested, we are going to share this webinar after. And so everything we're talking about here and these Q&As that are coming in, we'll be able to get out to this group after. So let me get started. All right, Drew, first question here. If I only have the bandwidth to manage one agency partnership, why should I put my focus on an Amazon specific agency if I advertise across many retail commerce platforms?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and kind of goes back to the point around the shift in the agency landscape of a lot of agencies moving to be omni-channel. And you really have to look at your specific brand, where the sales are, what the market opportunity is. And I would say more often than not, for brands that we've talked to, the growth that we're able to drive on Amazon alone far outweighs the growth that you would see on some of these other channels. And while it's, I think important to diversify, your brand's ad spend and sales, I think that's secondary to looking at your, again, overall ability to win market share within your category. And Amazon is the place to do it. And the tactics that you use on Amazon aren't always going to apply to those on other channels. So it's not a scenario where you can kind of just copy and paste, rinse and repeat the same data isn't always available on all these other retail media networks. So, again, more often than not, Amazon is where you're going to see the lion's share of growth.
Okay. How does WBX work with its partners when it comes to creating a partnership?
Yeah, so we have very open and direct communication with the brands that we partner with. So direct email contacts, typically weekly calls, QBRs. We structure things in a way so that we leave time for both the tactical elements of giving you insight into, what are all the things that we're doing on a given week to hit your goal. So what are all the small incremental wins that we can get, and then also making sure that we save time for more of the high level strategic thinking, taking a step back from, here are the optimizations and here are the changes that we made this given week, and just learning more about what your business goals are and how can we stay ahead of that from a strategy perspective.
Okay. And last one here, all things equal between two Amazon agencies, why WBX?
Yeah, I think WBX has really invested their time and effort in staying ahead of, I would say, our competition, specifically when it comes to data. So that was true 5-6 years ago, and it's even more true now. And that is really revolving around our efforts with the Amazon Marketing Cloud, building a platform that sits on top of that, because that really enables us to measure and target more effectively than the competition can. And we're constantly, I think, building onto that tool to think of new and differentiated ways to provide value that other agencies and tool providers can't. I think secondarily is we have an amazing team of people. You have to like the people that you're working with on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And we have a really experienced, as well as knowledgeable and super easy to work with team. So I think, we really are the total package for a potential partner.
All right, Drew, we have one more that came in here. So our brand has an agency of record for our overall brand advertising. Can my existing brand agency work with WBX Commerce as a specialty agency capacity to manage the Amazon strategy?
Absolutely. And we've done this in a number of cases in the past. Again, our value is really being the expert in Amazon. And there are other agencies out there who are great at buying linear TV, or they're great at providing, your in-store promotional execution. We have worked with very large holding companies, other agencies that, work in a different capacity than we do as Amazon experts. So we can absolutely do that.
Great. Thank you, Drew. And that wraps up our Q&A for today. For the attendees on the call now, again, we will follow up after with the recording and can answer any questions to myself or Drew if anything comes up after this call. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Drew.